Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everyone doing? It is April 29th, 2026. This is the RambleCast. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
And I see Alyssa and Austin in chat. Good to see you fine folks here. How's everything going? Okay, Corbin,
I don't
how's
know how to
everything?
answer. I don't know how to answer that question.
Fair point.
I'm okay. I'm doing okay.
In modern times, we cannot answer that question in good faith.
Relatively speaking, I'm doing good. Relative to the Earth.
Fair point. Actually, that almost became a topic. I didn't even mention it to you, but I almost brought in a thing about what our administration is doing to alternative energy, green energies. So
I think you need to fix my audio according to the chat.
Oh, that might be. Wait, why would that be a thing? Oh, I think if I turn that off, I think that fixes it.
Hello? I'm speaking now.
Oh wait, hold on. If I do that. Okay, that should fix it.
Okay. Maybe.
Wait, why is it? It's still there.
I don't know if Alyssa sent that before your most recent fix.
Fair point.
I see when that dropped in.
Oh wait, what the? Did I? Oh, that didn't mute the right thing.
Now mouth and voice are out of sync, allegedly.
Okay, so I just, as you were saying that, I just, I think fixed it. If not, I can swap to the other channel and that should fix it. One of the two, presumably, should fix this.
Okay.
Wait, what do I, how is there, what the, how did that end up happening? Oh, that's so weird. Okay, something very weird happened with this scene because there's now two entries for the same thing. So Mike is fine. Oh, that's good. Okay. All right, so
okay, we're back on track.
Well, let's not get too optimistic.
No. The yes, I do have red hair for the moment. It's gonna stay in there until it kind of fades out. I'm not gonna attempt this again. I don't think it's really annoying. But yeah, for the moment, yes.
Well, you could always go somewhere and have it done like by crazy professionals that do this all the time. Maybe if nothing else, you're offsetting some of the annoyance onto them rather than yourself.
Yes, a professional would do a much better job, but also I don't really like how it looks anyway. So
yeah, that's a fair point.
I'll probably just do like a lighter brown or blonde after this, and I'm probably just gonna stick with that. The fun colors were a fun experiment, but the experiment has concluded with the result of I don't particularly like it. And also the fact that it's really is that my favorite color is green. So Like I tried the green hair I think twice, and unfortunately, it's really hard to have short green hair and not look like Jared Leto Joker. It's
Ooh.
really difficult, and I can't pull it off. Other people can. I don't think I can. So unfortunately, I don't think I can try that again. Um, but maybe if it's like a streak or something, not like all of it, but it's still tempting fate. It's difficult. Alyssa said salon dyeing your hair is hella pricey. Yeah, I mean, I think I've got it down at home now. Honestly, um, it took a while for me to stop being stupid and like read enough directions and watch enough tutorials. Um, and the tutorials are always funny because I've realized that like at least from my perception, like 90% of articles and videos and things about dyeing your hair is aimed at women. So it's one of the few times where as the straight white male, I feel a little bit out of the intended audience, and all the videos I'm pulling up where it's like middle aged women going, "Hey girlies," and I'm like, "Yeah, how's it going?" Um, Elson said, "Well, Mr. Apple user, green is for us. You can have transparent glass and blue, transparent hair. I don't know if that's how that works. Go RGB hair. No,
Um. Yeah. Well, so the I remember when I went to college, there was one particular guy. He was a hardcore Apple fan, and given the college that I was going to, I dare say he was literally the only hardcore Apple fan there. Um, he made a very specific and adamant point of dyeing his hair iMac blue, which,
mm-mm.
to his credit, he was successful. His hair matched the
Yeah,
extremely
the Bondi blue. Yeah,
Bondi blue. Is that what?
Bondi. I don't one of those. That was the name of the actual iMac color, I believe.
Uh, yeah, evidently it was. Um, let's see. Pop that one into the tab. Um, uh, find an actual good image of this.
I have a Power Mac that is that color over there, but I don't have an iMac G3.
But yeah, he successfully got that color in his hair. Um, it was a choice. For to his advantage though, he did start with blonde hair, so
Hmm.
you know, um, color this particular direction and color was not the hardest to achieve. Nevertheless, still certainly a choice, especially at a college that I don't think you could have created a college more dedicated to um, Windows, Intel, and the whole nine. Like there was definitely a anti Mac lean in that in that institution. But hey, it is what it is. Um, I do like the idea of RGB hair though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could pull that off, unfortunately.
Uh, Probably not on your own. That definitely is more the
Well, I mean,
territory for someone else to do.
yeah,
But
I mean, in terms of like, would I be happy with my appearance afterwards? And I can almost guarantee the answer is no. But I'm sure I could mix up all the colors and it would kind of work.
well, see, I was thinking about just going Google colors. Like the full a full circle around the head, kind
No, no, there's like one dot on my head that's a color, and then the rest is white.
of. No, no, no. The current Google styling is just a big blend, all right in the center, and then nothing around it. Yeah, pure
Yeah.
white circling it. Um, all the gradients smushed together. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That starts getting into whatever. So, let's see. Speaking of the crazy, wacky world that we live in, um, I just thought I'd quickly highlight why the world is upside down, and it's the stock market. And this centers on the fact. Wait, why did it bounce to that tab? That's a. Come on, Chrome, be better. Uh, anyway, it all comes together with the stock market and what just happened to Qualcomm. Qualcomm, for those that don't know, and you probably shouldn't, Qualcomm just had their earnings announcement not that long ago, just a couple hours ago, I believe, and it their stock skyrocketed. Uh, they went up technically 4% today, but after hours, it actually ended up leaping almost 20%. I think technically it capped at like 17%. Um, and this is a combination of two, or there's a combination of two reasons why this happened. The first is that their earnings went down, but they didn't go down as much as Qualcomm predicted. Therefore, yay, we're winners. We're making less money, but not as much less money as we thought, so we did good. This is a somewhat understandable thing. The stock market typically kind of plays that way, and every company likes to make their financial estimates a little bit low. That way, when it comes to the earnings call, they can say, "No, look, we did great." The second reason is because the rumors are circulating that Qualcomm is now partnered up with OpenAI to make a smartphone, or rather to make chips for smartphones. It's a little unclear, but it sounds more like OpenAI thinks they're going to actually make smartphones, and then the chips are just going to be part of that. Sort of the same way that Apple makes their own chips and makes their own smartphones.
Or it might just be off the shelf Snapdragon chips going in that.
I think very, very highly likely, yes. It's just going to be off the shelf chips. There's a chance OpenAI is working with Qualcomm to maybe jam more AI related components into the chips. But yeah, I don't buy for a second that these are going to be exclusive chips. I don't think they're going to be that special or unique. And at the end of the day, Qualcomm is still going to be the ones making the cores, and that's kind of the notable decision there. Um, the rumors, I believe it. I don't doubt for a second that Qualcomm would be looking for a partner that is as money rich as OpenAI is right now, because of course OpenAI has the dumbest investors. And they're throwing money at pretty much anything and everything they can find to throw money at. Kind of the same way Twitter was when Twitter was getting tons of investors. Basically, just buy up as much crap as you can, find a way to flip it in a decade, and look at that, free money. But OpenAI definitely seems a bit dumber than that, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to highlight this. If anyone happens to be holding any Qualcomm stock, my advice: sell, 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 because it's only going to go down from here for a while. I do not have any Qualcomm stocks, so I am free and clear to say all of that. I do not have to disclose anything, except I did just disclose I don't have any Qualcomm stocks, so I guess whatever. Yeah. Corbin, any thoughts?
Not really. Um, I still my main thought about Qualcomm is I still really want someone to make a good Linux Snapdragon laptop, and I don't, to my knowledge, that's not happened yet. But we will talk about another Linux laptop later.
Indeed. So let's see. Another quick hit thing, just to mention it. This actually happened a little over a week ago. I would have covered it, but there was no stream due to me feeling like garbage. So, just to mention it, if anyone remembers, there were some apps on the app stores that were designed to track ICE agents, their appearances around cities, so on and so forth. We did cover this on the show, and basically said, "Hey, it's these are developers doing things that are perfectly valid and legal," and uh, uh, Google, Apple, and anyone else presumably is kind of capitulating to DHS and the DOJ sort of unreasonably in taking down those apps. Well, uh, it has now gone to the courts, and a judge sided with the creators of the app, saying, yeah, it's their First Amendment right to post the locations of agents as they've been cited. It's not unreasonable. And the fact that the government basically leaned on uh, Google and Apple to have those apps taken down, yeah, that is a blatant violation of the First Amendment. So fix it now. And that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that this is going to make as much of a difference now because obviously, one, uh, the tactics by these agencies have changed and adapted a bit. It's less useful to just be tracking locations of the agents like they were in the past. And I would also note at this stage, good luck getting the user base for these apps again. Because I'm sure they lost most, if not all, of their users at the time. This has been tied up in courts for close to a year, I think, or somewhere around there. And at this stage, I don't know how you really get back most of your users, or restart a launch for users. So this is kind of maybe not as effective. Um, what I would love to see, though, I know that this is a little bit of a stretch, but honestly, I would kind of like to see the creators of these apps pop up with basically a lawsuit, like a follow-up lawsuit that effectively says, yeah, we were going to put advertising in these apps. You caused damages straight up. We had a valid business model. You interfered with that. That is knowing and willful violations. So I don't think that they'll do that, or if they do, they're probably just going to get kind of lost in obscurity. But it would be kind of the smart thing to do to pursue damages in this case. Anyway, so again, Corbin, any thoughts? Anything you want to say on this?
It's good that it's back, obviously, but yeah, I don't know how useful this will be unless ICE starts the same
Gestapo tactics.
profile, like roaming from city to city thing again. It seems like they're not going to do that anymore because it's just as effective, unfortunately, to operate on the smaller scale in a bunch of places and really it's just when they do the high profile, like invading an entire city, that there's more of a push for these apps. But hopefully it'll be useful to some extent. I know there's also a bunch of like web services similar to this that have not had that kind of outage because there's just a web app you run.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to pursue something like that, especially if it's in general, like you have to get an ISP to take it down, or well, a hosting company, or go after their domain names, or if they're located outside of the country, you have to block like whole hosting services in order to take them down in most cases. So yeah, it's kind of a lost cause if they move to web services.
Yep. And a jarring shift in tone, I guess, um, is Game Pass stuff. So there's a new I forget her name, whoever the new executive of Xbox Gaming is. Um, but
Oh, Sharna something, if I
okay,
remember.
that seems right. But the new leadership over there has been trying very hard to dig Xbox out from the massive hole that it has put itself in. Asha Sharma. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Um, and part of that is changes to Game Pass, because Game Pass famously started out as like a pretty compelling option for playing games, and then it just became more and more and more expensive, and a lot of games either, you know, didn't show up there on day one, or there was like you have to pay more to play it on day one. Like, I remember really the only game from Microsoft that I wanted to play as soon as possible in recent history was Starfield, and that was supposed to be a day one launch on Game Pass, which I had. But of course, there was like a like early access thing where you could like get the higher end version. I think it was like $20 unlocks to play it like a week early or something like that. So of course I did that because I had no self control. Um, but it's like, well, it's still like day one, but now we've invented a day before day one, and it's just kind of the value proposition has kind of slowly fallen apart. So now they're trying to fix that slightly. Game Pass Ultimate has dropped from $30 a month to $23 a month. PC Game Pass has dropped from $16.49 to $14 a month, and I guess the Xbox One has not changed because they did not mention this in the post. Um, oh yeah, and there's there's so many tiers now. There's
Mm-hmm.
Game Pass Ultimate, Game Pass Premium, Game Pass Essential, which is Xbox Live, and PC Game Pass. Um, so lower price drop. You're wondering what's the catch? Well, the catch is that future Call of Duty games will not be on Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass at launch. And they mentioned that they'll be added to Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass during the following holiday season, about a year later, while existing Call of Duty games already in the library will continue to be available. So basically, they're just doing the math of we think the people who care about Call of Duty will pay for that separately, and that's easier for us to math out rather than losing that potential extra income if we just let all those people use Game Pass. So I I don't know. There's been a lot of back and forth from people in the industry, and I would not venture to make a more educated guess than them that the math for Game Pass is still really difficult. Like, game publishers or game developers don't quite get enough for it, and it seems like Microsoft hasn't really figured out how to make it a growing and profitable business. And I think part of the value proposition relied on Xbox being something that you would want to invest in, and for the last couple of years, it has looked like the opposite of that. So I'm sure that's not helping either. So I don't know. Maybe this is the start of figuring stuff out. Um, I I don't know how you fix this. I'm not the finances guy. Um, I do still think the branding here is kind of insane. Um, Especially the thing where like everything is renamed to Game Pass or PC. Yeah, everything's called Game Pass. There's like 5 tiers now. It's just still kind of confusing and expensive, but
Are there
Slightly less so now,
are
I
there
guess.
5? Because at least if I'm looking at the join page, I see 4.
Mm.
Um, so let's see. They have I think these are basically just all of the game passes. Oh, I wonder if maybe they don't show one of them here. Okay, so they have essential, premium, and ultimate, which I think these are supposed to be the cross-platform ones, and then they have a PC only one. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if they have a console only one that they don't show here. That maybe you only see it if you're looking at this from console.
Yeah,
Um,
like a discontinued SKU or something.
but yeah, so I mean, I don't I don't know. I first off, I think you're right when it comes down to it. The math is certainly complicated. Um there oh wait a second. Yeah, okay, I just found a weird inconsistency. So what's it say down here? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's still right. Okay. Sorry, I just got confused because one number was a little weird in a spot. Um so first I'm just going to flippantly say the math is not hard because they just had AI do it. Of course I'm kidding, but I wouldn't entirely put it past them to do something as stupid as just ask, well, what are the right prices, and just trust Copilot to come up with something, anything,
Mm.
just at all. But no, so I I think this is the problem with any subscription based thing, because when Game Pass first started, obviously the goal was get as many people on it as possible. So they priced it too low. Um everyone everyone looked at it and was even saying like, "Hey, this is really really compelling. It's a great price. It as long as you play more than one game or two games that you would have had to otherwise buy, then Game Pass looks great." Um, and especially if you want like first day access to stuff and you want a big back catalog and all these other things. Obviously, Game Pass looked really, really compelling back then. As the price has increased, people just keep recalculating that math. And every single time it's like, okay, the increase basically, it, the increase every time they bumped it is usually enough that you could probably buy a whole game to keep forever with that increase. Like if over the course of a year, or give or take a little bit. And maybe you're not buying the game day one or something like that, but you get the idea. Like you really, you could the differences add up quite a bit. Um, so then when you start getting to multiple price increases in a year, and it just those price hikes keep hitting harder and harder, it's like, yeah, no one no one is seeing the math working out here anymore, unless you're one of those people again who is just playing new games all the time. Like, I mean, if you're a Twitch streamer who plays on console and you're just like playing every narrative game that you possibly can, and you're playing through like, two or three a week or something, that's a little hyperbolic, but if you're playing reasonably frequently and blowing through game after game, the Game Pass is still a bargain. It's awesome for you. But that's not the majority of people. That is a very, very slim, narrow shred of the potential audience. And then when you look at the rest of that potential audience, it's like, I I guess it's like maybe families that have kids who spend a lot of time gaming and want to play a crap load of different games. Like at that point, you're definitely like there's still an audience for it, but it's not very good.
It's just a niche, and Xbox in general is now a niche. So you're trying to
Yeah.
monetize your niche of a niche, and that never goes well.
Yeah. So the math from a customer perspective, the math only works out if you play a lot of games and want to play a lot of games. From the game developer's perspective, it's never going to work out very well for them if those are the only customers. And from Microsoft's perspective, it's never going to work out for them if that's the only customers. So, yeah, all of this led to the obvious thing. And there was a rumor 2 weeks ago, we covered it on this show, basically saying Asha Sharma had said or had circulated a memo of some kind saying, yeah, the prices are too high. We need to do something about this. And at the time, the opinion was, hey, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. And a week later, it happened. So it's weird how this feels a little bit, just a little bit like how Twitter, or how Elon Musk kind of walked in, started making statements, and then would make a declaration of here's what's going to happen going forward. There was a whole lot of like sudden, fairly rapid changes. I'm certainly not equating Asha Sharma with Elon Musk because yikes. But it is sort of the rapid, it's the rapid change of things that feels familiar here. And maybe that's good. Maybe this was a, maybe this is a case of somebody stepping in saying, wow, we see something that's clearly wrong here. It is not a product as it stands today. It can't work at that price. And so we're just not going to charge that price anymore. We'll change it to a price that's good enough that we think people will actually pay for, and we'll figure it out after that. Like maybe the money's still bad. Maybe we need to change other things, but we'll figure that out later. Let's get the price correct first and then come back and sort out the rest. I don't know if that's the strategy, but that's kind of what it feels like to me when I look at this right now. Because truthfully, I still don't think that this is a price that's going to attract tons of people. And I think it's a price that also isn't going to pay for the games. Not well enough. So we'll see.
It clearly doesn't pay for Call of Duty.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't pay for Call of Duty. Though it technically it is paying for the Call of Duty archive. I think that is the way that I'm looking at this is you don't get to play the game on release, but a year later, that's really good if you want to go back and play the old Call of Duties. That's really good if you want to like kind of get caught up on the storyline, because there evidently is one. I'm kidding, of course. I know there is one. But yeah, it's good for people who want to go back and play the old ones. It's obviously still kind of meant to, I guess, lead people into having to pay for the new ones when they come out. That's obviously the intent here. But we'll see how that goes. I honestly, I'm a little surprised that they aren't, and maybe they are going to end up doing this, but somehow I kind of expect that at some point they'll come out with like an extra Game Pass upgrade that is like the Call of Duty add-on or something, which will just be like, here, pay an extra, I don't know what number. Let's just say $5.
$50 a month.
Yeah, exactly. But like an extra $5 a month, then hey, now you get to have Call of Duty. Whatever Call of Duties are out. And then maybe they do that for a few of the other franchises at some point. I don't know that there's too many franchises that have such consistent releases as Call of Duty that are under the Game Pass umbrella, or could be. But I wouldn't be surprised if they actually start shaving a few of those other titles out of Game Pass and just make those add-ons. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I would assume Call of Duty is the exception because it has the regular release cycle and because it is like the GDP of a small nation, in terms of
Sales. Yeah.
revenue. Like it's like the dozens of game studios whose only purpose is to pump out Call of Duty is unrivaled in the industry for the most part.
Uh, I mean, I agree with that, though there's a small part of me that is just I've got like I'm just picturing the FIFA fans out there yelling and screaming like, guys, don't you understand we still exist too? Or the same goes with any of the sports franchises. Though those are all pretty much all of those are EA if I remember. Or at least the successful ones. But yeah, anyway, so I have a feeling this isn't really going to be the last that we talk about Game Pass in the near future. I it feels like there's another shoe waiting to drop, and I'm not even sure what direction that goes. But we'll see.
Yeah. So speaking of buying things, you can now, I believe, I'm not sure if it's pre-order or buy, but there is a new Framework laptop. So Framework is the company that has been building um, repairable, upgradable laptops, like to the point where you can drop in a new main board in an existing laptop, or swap out the shells, or upgrade the GPU in an existing laptop, which isn't really a thing with any other manufacturer. And they have now released the Framework Laptop Pro 13, which is an upgraded version of their 13-inch laptop that does slightly break with their earlier design. So it still uses a lot of the same components as the laptop 13, but the main difference is just that the bottom shell is built differently so that it can have a bigger battery. So as Engadget pointed out here, the internal battery, which started at 55 watts when they made the 13-inch laptop the first time, and then was upgraded to 61 watts, that's now 74 watts. So they are claiming 20 hours of battery life while streaming Netflix in 4K. And besides that, it just has all of the other modern hardware you would expect. You can drop in a Intel Core Ultra Series 3 CPU. I don't know. Okay, yeah. The Pro will also launch with an AMD Ryzen AI 300 series mainboard option. And those are the same ones found on the regular Framework Laptop 13. And it also now uses LPDDR5X RAM with better power efficiency. Of course, that's going to be expensive now because the economy is like that. And I believe this has a yeah, okay, yeah, it does have a touchscreen now that was missing on previous models. So it's still not like a two-in-one laptop with a hinge, but if you really want a touchscreen on a normal laptop shell, you can now have that. And they also upgraded the touchpad. So they're claiming it's about as good as a, well, I don't know if they're claiming, that might be Engadget doing weird phrasing, but supposedly the touchpad is more on par with the MacBook Pro in terms of haptic feel. Okay, yeah. So they say on Framework says on their laptop, they say it's powered by four uh, piezoelectric actuators, delivering consistent high quality clicks across the surface. Feedback and gestures are fully tunable, so you can set it up exactly how you want. And yeah, it looks like a really nice laptop. And I believe they mentioned that they're selling more Framework laptops with Linux than there are Windows at this point, and they do support both. So you can buy this with either Windows pre-installed or Ubuntu, or just buy it blank and you install whatever you want. And I'm sure if it works with Ubuntu, it will work with any other Linux distribution because hardware support is usually just in the kernel. They might have a few like little apps that might be slightly annoying to install on other distros, worst case scenario. But yeah, if you want a open hardware design laptop, that just became a better option. It is pricey, but not like absurdly so.
It's not MacBook Pro
So
pricey.
no, as I go to their configuration page, I can pick a laptop 13 Pro with Intel Core Ultra Series 3 for $1,200 and a $100 deposit because it's pre-order and it ships in September. And that has a Oh, I have to pick that. Okay, that has a Core Ultra 5 325 CPU. It has no memory in that configuration. You have to pick it. So the cheapest one is 16 gigs. That is an extra $240. So this laptop with 16 gigs of RAM is now $1,400. And it doesn't come with
Yeah, I was
storage.
gonna say it needs storage
I
too.
gotta add the storage. I'll just go down the list and add everything. I'm gonna choose no operating system though. Black, US keyboard. No power adapter. I think most cases you would need the power adapter unless you already have one from one of their other laptops.
Let's just say
Or
yes.
is it USB-C? That might be fine. I'll include that. Okay, so now the laptop is $1,600. So that's about what I would expect. But yeah, that most of that is just economics of scale and flash storage prices being insane while making Apple look cheap. I mean, this is what we talked about in the last Ramble cast is just everyone making Apple look cheap. Like Apple turn into the value proposition
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple of years. Because I think if I go on Amazon right now, I believe a recent MacBook Air is going to be like $800. Yeah,
Yeah.
2026 MacBook Air M5 is $950. So again, this is something I do want to write a blog post about at some point. Is the Apple tax has really become an inverse, where if you want a upgradable laptop with good Windows and Linux support, you will now be paying a premium for that. Um, so the option exists if you want it, but is unfortunately a higher price than I think a lot of people can deal with right now. But I'm glad Framework's still around. I wish they wouldn't take money from some of the people and organizations that they've partnered with. But that goes for about every company in existence right now. So,
I mean,
no.
yeah, there's even been criticisms of Blender lately. So, yeah, uh, everyone's taking money from someone bad.
I love capitalism. So yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this. I've not like read a lot of the like hands-on articles or anything about this, but I know others are excited for it. So seems like a neat laptop. I still kind of want a uh, modern-ish PC laptop uh, for just random testing stuff and maybe games sometimes because I don't have that right now. But it probably wouldn't be a framework. Um, but yeah, you can go pre-order that if you so choose.
Indeed. So let's see. We're really just not in the transition. You know what? Just for giggles. Let's no. We'll just keep going in the order that these are in. Um
Okay. Well, there's I put together a series of unfortunate events
yes, you
related
did.
to GitHub. So the main thing that is important for all this context is that GitHub is really unreliable at this point. GitHub being the source code repository platform and just general like infrastructure hosting stuff. All of my web apps and websites are on GitHub pages except one, which is a Node server. And if you are like around tech people or developers, anyone you are one yourself, you have heard or noticed GitHub's many outages. They have so many outages now. I put this unofficial GitHub status page in the show notes, which its main tracking mechanism I think is a little bit unfair because they're counting all of the outages across every single service that GitHub is connected to, and that's like 100 things because it's like, this is Microsoft's main like, code continuous integration platform. So there's a lot of parts that a lot of people wouldn't notice if something broke. But even if you scroll down and you look at like individual services, some of them have like Copilot here is 96.24% uptime in the last 90 days. GitHub Copilot, which is their like AI code assist thing that like does like pull requests, checks, and like can help you write code in Visual Studio Code or whatever. So that's at 96. GitHub Pages is at 99%. GitHub Actions, which is the continuous integration and continuous deployment thing, is 97%. I just noticed like an hour ago, I was looking at a pull request and there was an alert that said on the website that like it's partially down right now. So it's just not going well. It has not been going well over there. There's like some pretty catastrophic stuff happening behind the scenes. Supposedly a lot of it is just increased traffic, code activity, whatever, because we're all vibe coding up a storm these days. But it's been slowly getting worse for a long time, mostly coinciding with Microsoft moving GitHub to its own infrastructure, because GitHub used to be kind of separate from Microsoft, not just organizationally, but like all of their servers and things. And they eventually started moving everything over to Azure. So it's been going downhill. Also, when Azure goes down, that now means GitHub is down, which is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it hasn't been going great. And as a result, there is a lot more attention on moving away from GitHub that is interesting. There's obviously a lot of projects and organizations that have done this already. I know a lot of Linux stuff is on GitLab. I believe like all of the GNOME and KDE projects are over there, or most of them. I know like I think Canonical has some other separate system, but it's not like a novel concept to not use GitHub. It's been a thing. It's just been kind of small scale because GitHub does still give you a lot of stuff for free. So if you can deal with occasional outages, it's still a pretty good deal.
Well, maybe a bit of context. Look, I'm sure about most of the people listening to this show probably already know this, but GitHub, just for context, at its most basic level, obviously it is a good place for sort of hosting open source projects. The code repositories themselves, obviously the history that is in those code repositories, but it does go beyond that. GitHub Pages is, of course, basically sort of free web hosting functionality that exists. They obviously have, again, like kind of going down that list, they have actions, GitHub Actions, which basically is, in most cases, the functionality that will compile your code projects and sometimes run a few other activities on those. And while that sounds like just a simple step, the reality is it actually gives you, in many instances, the ability to compile for platforms that you may not have the hardware or operating system to even compile. So
it spins up tiny virtual machines. So at scale,
right.
that's a lot of tiny virtual machines that are running.
Right, but the reason I bring this up, it's important for the fact that there are developers out there who simply do not have the ability to build distributions of their software that can go to their entire user base. And so the only way they have to do that sometimes is through GitHub Actions. Or they would have to pay a lot more money to do it in other ways. Let's see, they have again, there's Copilot. I'm not even gonna, that's its own mess, but it is helpful for developers to have access to GitHub Copilot because it can make certain coding tasks easier. Though if you've been watching the Discord conversation I was having with Hoopy, yeah, there's a general consensus that Copilot is kind of iffy on its quality. As a coding tool, honestly, I think that's the best AI thing that Microsoft has, but it's still not great. Let's see. But it also goes beyond that. Another thing that GitHub gets used for commonly is it's still hosting as a repository, but there are tons of services out there that usually they're web hosts, but not exclusively. They have integrations with GitHub so that what you can do as a developer is, let's say, and I'll just use Vercel as an example. Let's say that you have a web app. You are hosting it on Vercel. What you will typically do is push your code up to GitHub, and Vercel watches your repository. When you do that code push, Vercel then grabs the code, does its own compile on its side, and deploys it automatically. So, and here's the thing, this is a very common workflow. Lots of companies are doing this now. So whole companies are dependent on GitHub being functional and upright so that they can do deployments of their web apps, so that their web services can get timely updates, so that they can, even just regular websites in many instances are just based on this workflow. So when GitHub is non-functional for anywhere from minutes to, in some of these outages, like I saw some of them, this one for GitHub Actions, for example, that's a 4-hour downtime. Technically 3 hours and 57 minutes, but whatever, it's 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. Oh crap, this is GitHub issues, but here's one, 7 hours and 17 minutes. These are, wow, when GitHub issues goes down, they do not do short outages. 13 hours, granted partial outage, but still. Yeah, when GitHub goes down, oh crap, GitHub operations, 6 hours, 50 minutes. Yeah, these are bleak. I didn't even notice how bad some of these were.
Yeah, this page is also a little bit like the like Killed by Google, where I think they lean towards
the more
over-exaggerating a
sensationalized,
bit,
but yeah.
but like even if you tone this down a lot, it's still not great.
Right. So yeah, the thing is, this sounds a little hyperbolic, but I think it is a perfectly fair assessment. Every time we talk about like Cloudflare or AWS, Amazon Web Services, having an outage, And it's like, wow, the internet just went down for 6 hours because one of these companies just basically crashed. It's less obvious, but that's kind of what's happening when GitHub has outages like this. It is such a core part of how so many different services do deployments, updates, how they maintain their code. Sometimes code quality is going to suffer if this stuff goes wrong, because it seems like even things like pulling the latest, or I, I don't know if any pushes have failed, but it seems like the possibility of corrupt repositories is actually there. I'm not sure, but it seems like we could be in mild danger of that. So this is a big deal. Like, this actually is effectively critical infrastructure, and when there's a downtime like this, or when things are failing in kind of weird ways, that's bad. That is like a real problem. Also, I just noticed, I bet this was an Azure outage. March 3rd. If you look, there's a string of little red dots perfectly aligned all on March 3rd, with the exception of GitHub pages and GitHub packages. It's this perfect lineup of red dots straight up and down. Similar thing happened on February 9th. Not all the same packages, or not all the same services, but I bet those are Azure outages that cause those. Anyway, yeah, it might not seem like it, but this is actually a bigger deal than what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not good. And so as this continues to stay as bad or get worse, there's been more discussions of moving off. Uh, uh, I found two examples that came across my radar that were kind of interesting. One of them was the developer of Ghosty, which I just wrote a blog post about on the Space Bar about how much I like Ghosty. It is a terminal emulator, so not like a like super big project, but like a notable project. And this is more of a like a personal take of him mentioning that he actually wanted to work at GitHub for a very long time. And he is a very early user of the platform and likes it a lot, but the outages and other issues are just so bad that it's driving him to madness. And so he's looking at other options. And let me see. Uh, he mentions, I felt this way for a long time, but for the past month, I've kept a journal where I put an X next to every date where a GitHub outage has negatively impacted my ability to work. Almost every day has an X. On the day I'm writing this post, I've been unable to do any pull request review for about 2 hours because there is a GitHub Actions outage. This is no longer a place for serious work if it just blocks you out for hours a day, every day. Um, so I, you know, not like a paradigm shifting migration if this one app moves, but like I'm a lot of people and projects are probably feeling this way if they've not said it. And one other example I did see is the government of the Netherlands uh, switching away from. It might be both GitHub and GitLab. I'm not sure if they were using both or were just evaluating GitLab, but they mentioned they are adopting a self-hosted instance of Forge Joe, which I have not heard of before, but it is a alternative to GitHub and GitLab. And that one is uh, more so interesting to me just because we've seen a lot of this from European countries for the last 2 years about or at least ramping up a lot more in the last 2 years. It's been a thing for much longer. of just trying to move away from any dependency on United States technology. Um, Also China, but more so the U.S. is the one that's become the unexpected pressing concern. Is oops, the U.S. might disable all of our Microsoft 365 accounts at some point. So that one I think is more about geopolitics than necessarily GitHub going down constantly. But I think that the last one is just kind of a nice bonus, and might be interesting if other countries and organizations try doing this. Again, I know like Gnome and Katie and a lot of those other projects are on GitLab, but I don't think it's self-hosted or you know not not like managed installation, I guess I should say. So just kind of interesting to see where everyone goes, because I am curious if this ends with like GitLab picking up a lot more mainstream attention, or this other platform being interesting. I think it's really funny that I've not seen SourceForge come up a single time. Like everyone moved on from that like a decade ago and will not go back.
Uh, I'm I'm sorry. I was drinking water, and that almost deserved a spit take at the mention of
Sorry.
SourceForge. Um, maybe it's too harsh of a call out, but I think it's fair not to consider SourceForge, seeing as that was their security incidents over the last like 15 years have been pretty stark. So I don't think anyone should be looking at SourceForge as a option. Um,
What? Wait, why are they owned by Slashdot?
I didn't know that they were now, but I guess that's interesting. Um, maybe Slashdot's
Yeah,
fixed it. Who knows?
they got bought by them in 2019, apparently.
Mm,
But
that's why no one heard about it. Um, honestly, I'm a little surprised sometimes that Slashdot's still around. Don't get me wrong, I actually
uh,
really liked Slashdot back in the day. Just I never hear it mentioned anymore.
I'm not sure if they are. It might just be the parent company, but
Oh,
um,
I have a feeling Slashdot's still a thing.
and then the last thing I have here in the GitHub roundup is GitHub Copilot is moving all of its plans to usage-based billing on June 2026. What this means is that Microsoft does not want to subsidize its all of its AI coding stuff anymore. So the subscription model is out, and if you want to use it, you're basically just paying based on how many AI credits you're burning through, which is correlated to like your token usage. So, um, kind of interesting in that this is another big milestone in the next phase of the AI industry, which is the part where we care more about uh, not losing a ton of money. So, I'm sure other services like this, if they have not already moved to usage-based billing, will be doing that pretty soon. And then we'll see how many people want to continue using these tools when they're not free or very affordable.
Yeah. Because I mean, obviously you can separate coding from other types of AI usage, because I would argue the two are kind of in separate camps. Um, in terms of both what it costs to run them and how they get used. That being said, yeah, I think the days of pay a single subscription price and just have access to AI is probably going to be a very short-lived thing.
Certainly for coding, because code is kind of this weird spot where all the local models and tools are still not really useful for this, and in terms of working on a big project. Like I have pulled up LM Studio to ask it random questions about Ruby, and like dumping in my you know section of code and asking it questions and stuff. But I'm not, that's different from like the feeding entire code bases into this thing to read it and spit out some kind of response. All that still kind of needs the expensive cloud servers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still have not used like any of the like Claude code or anything crazy, just because I don't really want to spend money on that. So unless I get it through work or something, I'm probably just not going to try it. I did use the free GitHub Copilot for like a week. I was trying it out and using like the autocomplete in VS Code, and it was okay, but I don't really need that. It helps that I'm not really working on large code bases or, well, trying to think what the right word here is. I'm not a software developer all day, every day in big code bases. If I'm in there, I'm doing like little tweaks. So it wouldn't really be advantageous to me in any way, especially in comparison to like brain atrophy from using these tools too much. You know, so. Yeah, that's the GitHub roundup of things not going well over there. And it's funny that it does actually impact me now, because I was doing work yesterday, and my custom search that I use as my to-do list at work just stopped working for like 2 hours. So it's very fun.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had a lot of time to do any coding lately, mostly because I'm just getting other things caught up. But there are a few projects that I am really determined to get to. So yeah, I'm going to. Well, as far as AI usage, I'll definitely be getting some use out of at least Gemini for that. But still just using it through the chatbot interface though, because screw paying for usage right now. That being said, as far as GitHub goes, yeah, this is concerning. I'm probably I don't see myself stopping usage of GitHub necessarily. I might look at GitLab or something else, but I need the typical no cost for private repositories solution,
Yeah.
which not everyone wants to offer that. And that was
I am. They have me hooked on GitHub Actions, unfortunately. I It would be annoying to move that to other things, because like I still they're still hosting all of my websites and web apps for free because they're all static pages through GitHub Pages. Literally the only thing I'm paying for hosting is image share, because it is a Docker Compose container app. That's a Node.js server, so that's not static. But everything else is free, and that does there's a lot of other platforms that will host your static website for you, but again, I'd have to move other things as well. So it has not inconvenienced me yet to the point where I would be looking at other options. But I'm not like the that ghosty developer in there all day, every day, and unable to do anything.
well, notably, I was the exact opposite of them at one point in history, because I kind of detested the fact that GitHub had, in its early days, if you wanted to have a repository for free, it had to be public and open source. Whereas if you wanted to do anything in private, you had to pay a relatively, at the time, I mean, I considered it a fairly high monthly subscription. And yeah, I wasn't super keen on that. And I get why. Like they were doing that because they were expecting large corporations to be or at least like professional software houses to be hosting their projects there, and that's not what I was doing at the time. So it makes sense, but still, it was something that sort of pushed me away from GitHub. um that, and at the time I was also, and still, not the biggest fan of Git as a source control solution. But that's a separate issue. um as a quick random aside, Slashdot is in fact still operating. There are news stories from today on their homepage. So yep, it is still very much a thing. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and uh, the just to note, because I think it's funny, the top story right now, or the first story if you go look, is that Sam Bankman-Fried apparently requested a new trial, and a judge basically said, "That'd be a huge waste of our time. No, go away, go back
Yeah,
to jail, loser."
I've been reading the I believe it's Molly White who writes the Web3 is ruining everything website. She's been covering the trials and how Sam Bankman-Fried has like helicopter parents doing his like legal stuff and won't
Um,
leave him alone, so they keep messing with the courts.
well, of course
It's
he
really
does,
funny.
because he's an idiot.
Many such cases.
Yes.
Um.
So
Okay.
speaking of
So.
idiocy, yeah,
Oh,
ooh, yeah,
I don't know.
oh, oh, okay. So you're going with the positive version on this. All right, let's go with it.
Do I just say it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I
So,
don't see this as a good thing, but go on.
well, I don't think I'm negative about it. I'm just not. Uh, well, anyway, the news is that there is a Motorola Razr Fold in the U.S. I believe this already launched in other countries. Yeah. It was teased in January. Now there is a U.S. release date for Motorola slash Lenovo's latest folding phone. It is $1,900. Pre-orders will open on May 14th on Motorola's website and Best Buy. This is a 9.89 millimeters in depth when closed. Similar, I mean, basically similar design as all the other book style folding phones. It is more square um, in its fully open position, again, like the Z Fold. And outer display is 6.6 inches OLED. Inner display is 2K, 8.1 inches across. Running Android 16, Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. So I don't know what the software support is. I don't think 9 to 5 Google said that. Maybe
Well,
Motorola's website does.
see, and that's where the negativity comes from. It's Motorola. Motorola's history with updates has been bleak, to say.
They're Yeah, they've gotten a little bit better, but
Oh,
they
they
started
certainly have
off
gotten
just
better,
so
but they
abysmal.
yeah. And on a phone that is going to cost $1,900, you should have a softer. Don't get me wrong, it's a folding phone. I know it's physically probably not going to last long enough that you really need a long update cycle, but at the same time, it's a $1,900 phone. It needs to have decent software support, and Motorola does not have the history for that.
Um, yeah, I don't see. It says an operating system is Android 16, which is not helpful information. So I don't know if they've said anything about this. Let me look at their press release, maybe? Motorola Press. Do. This doesn't look April 29th. Okay. No, these are just a bunch of. Oh my god, I really don't like Motorola's website.
I would normally say it's pretty, but it's actually not.
I guess we'll
I mean,
just
they
go with
have
the
nice
assumption
video,
that
but when you look at the design elements outside of the video, it looks horrible.
Yeah, I was trying to look for a press release that might say the software support, uh, but I don't know if that exists. Hmm. Yeah, I just see a press release from March 2nd, which is, I guess, when they showed it off for international audiences. Um, okay, here we go. Okay, I found it. So I'll put this in the YouTube chat. With up to 7 Android OS upgrades and up to 7 years of security updates. I hope by up to they mean at least, and not like they're done with it in 4 months and like, well, it was up to. It did
Yeah.
not exceed 7 years. Okay. Yeah, they say includes 7 OS in the footnotes. They say includes 7 OS upgrades and up to 7 years of security updates starting from the global launch date. So your counter is starting from March. Okay. So I guess that's fine. Again, I'm assuming by up to they mean at least, and then it gets cut off shortly after that. It'd be funny if it wasn't.
I they could just be saying up to for legal protection. Like we're committing that we might do that, but we also might not. So tough luck.
The
If
one thing we can guarantee you is that we will not support your phone beyond 7 years.
that could be it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, another option for a foldable phone. Again, I've made my opinion on these pretty clear. Is just that I think they're neat. I would feel still very uncomfortable spending that much money for a phone that is more fragile than my normal boring rectangle phone. So I've not bought one of these, and I probably will not until there's a pretty significant shift in the price or durability.
I my position on this is shifting a little bit. Now the durability and price issue I think are absolutely still top tier issues. Where I do struggle a little bit, or where I kind of have a little bit of reconsideration, is I think it depends if you have a use case that really demands a folding phone for some reason. Like you really need to have 2 apps open side by side, or
And you can't bring a tablet with you at all. Like the iPad Mini is forbidden.
sort of, but I'm thinking along the lines of maybe it needs to be a phone, maybe it needs to be folding. Maybe like you need the portability of a folding phone, but you need that ability to also open it up and have 2 apps side by side, and maybe it has to be the same device, maybe it has to be a phone with cellular connection, maybe it needs this, maybe it needs that. Like I'm just saying, I think in some specific scenarios I can see why a folding phone becomes a much more effective tool to do a given thing that you might need to do. That's where I'm coming from on this. So, I mean, it doesn't change the average person situation. It's more, I'm talking about this in kind of the same way. Maybe this is a weird way to say it, but it's kind of the same way that if you were to position, let's say, Google Glass to the average person, most people would get it. And I know I'm talking about something that's over 10 years old, so this isn't the best example either. But if you put Google Glass in front of the average person, they'd go, all right, it's kind of cool and all, but I don't really have a use for this, and the battery life sucks, and so on and so forth. Whereas you stick it in front of the specific groups for which they designed specific software that worked, that like catered to those groups. At that point, Glass made a ton of sense, and a lot of companies made really good use out of it, in the industrial areas and whatever. So, it's when a folding phone is a good tool to solve a specific challenge, great tool. The rest of the time, yeah, still kind of, I don't think it's a good product for the average consumer yet. And someday that'll change. I just don't, I don't think we're there yet for average people. But I do also think that one of these days, folding phones, once they become sufficiently durable at a sufficiently accessible price, I do really have a strong suspicion we're going to hit a point where the average person will prefer that over a regular non-folding phone. Now, whether or not that happens before we get to the point of having some other thing that supplants phones entirely, we'll see. I don't want to rule out the possibility that at some point we have somebody doing implants that like completely eliminates the need for phones, or we have maybe someone pops up with a headset or glasses or something like that and solves all of the problems, which at this point is absurd, but I'm just speaking in hypotheticals. If someone pops up with something that completely supplants phones, then folding phones are screwed. It's kind of the same way that HD DVD and Blu-ray came out, and everyone thought, oh well, this is how we're going to watch movies for the next 10 or 15 years. And then it was like a year later, Netflix became the streaming service that everyone wanted, and it's like, oh, never mind, we're actually just good with this. We're just going to stream movies now. Forget Blu-ray, forget HD DVD. This is all a waste of time. That could happen to folding phones. I'm not really predicting that it will. I kind of think I think we're going to go through a long phase with folding phones, but not ruling out that as a possibility that they just become a forgotten and irrelevant technology.
Perhaps. Okay, so I think I can only stick around for one more thing. So do you want that to be the last one or the next one?
I'm I like that we're just ignoring that one that comes in between. Because
Everyone's already talked about that.
Huh?
Everyone's already talked about that. It's no fun anymore.
Agreed. For anyone who's curious, it was the thing where OnePlus and Realme are supposedly merged. Okay, so I'm inclined to actually talk about the last thing more because it leads into the other thing, and I can just babble about that for a few minutes and then move on. Because everyone's also talked about that extensively, so I think this is a more interesting topic. And that topic is apparently the Vision Pro might be dead.
Might be gone. Might be done. So
yeah, it may have joined the Apple graveyard,
Yep.
or maybe not, but we'll see.
So the report, I believe the original source for this was Mac Rumors, is that Apple has supposedly fully given up on the Vision Pro. They have moved everyone who was working on it to other teams. Uh, they the shift the focus is supposedly shifting to smart glasses, which follows what we've seen uh, Meta slash Facebook trying, and Google is trying, although Google has not yet abandoned headset Android XR, but they are uh, there's smart glasses on the horizon for Android XR, and we have not yet learned of any more headsets for Android XR. Um, so supposedly the Mac Rumor says that the M5 chip and more comfortable band didn't really help uh, interest or sales at all. I'm not sure that anyone at Apple ever expected that to happen. Like that was just very clearly a spec refresh. That was like we can do it, so we're just gonna slap it in there, and while we work on a larger refresh. Um, they do mention that the Vision Pro has been unpopular since it first launched, and Apple only sold around 600,000 units in total. Insider sources told Mac Rumors that Apple has received an unusually high percentage of returns, far exceeding any other modern Apple product. I think that is interesting. I wonder if part of that is just a lot of people realize they cannot justify the $3,500 headset, and other potential issue is everyone who didn't realize beforehand that they could not do VR headsets, because that is still a high percentage of people get the motion sickness or whatever.
Okay, so I th- I think it honestly I think the return rate is almost doomed to be an unfair statistic. Like it's a statistic that needs to be tracked and exist, and it's reasonable to know it. I think it is a statistic that has so many variables buried in it that it becomes something you can't make any assessment about though. And one of those, or just to list off a few variables, and you did hit a few of them, but right from the start, the return rate was always going to be high because a crap load of YouTubers or people just wanting to make YouTube content or blog posts or reviews on websites like we'll say Mac Rumors and wherever else, all these people, because you couldn't get units, like you couldn't borrow units from Apple. You had to go into a store, buy it, and then return it before your time limit was up. I watched at least 3 YouTubers that other people linked to. They made a point of just saying, we're not keeping this. Like, we went in knowing we weren't going to keep this. There's a return period. So we went in, we bought the thing. Apple got to hold on to our money for a couple of weeks, and then we brought it back. Like, we never intended to keep this. So I think that was already a large portion of people. I think that also, kind of on the same note but different, I think this spurred a lot of people to do exactly that without any intention of making content. There was a whole lot of people who were just like, I want to try it for myself. I want to see if this is something that I might want to get someday, even if it's not this one. And so there were a lot of people. I've known a couple of people who went and got one just with the intention of returning it. And they aren't YouTubers, bloggers, or anything. They just wanted to try it and see if it works for them. And, maybe when they get the money someday, they'll go back and get another. There are, I think, a ton of people who, yes, they got this and realized, this causes motion sickness, or this is, this, like I have an eye condition and this doesn't work with that, or name off all the various reasons why headsets just don't actually work for all people. And, some people thought maybe Apple solved some of those problems. Turns out they didn't. Or at least maybe they solved some of them, but not all of them. So that's an issue. There's a whole bunch of people who, man, so many people talked about this. They went and bought one, and through like their first few weeks of using it, they realized, I don't know what to do with this. Like, it's neat and all. It works. We don't have a problem with it, but what am I supposed to do with it? And then, so you had all these people who just hit the usage cap, so to speak, like, or the ceiling of what their ability to use this was. And I think one of the biggest issues, and I maintain that this is the biggest problem that they had on launch, it is still, I think, the biggest problem that they have with this headset. I maintain it is the biggest colossal fuck up that Apple could have made. They had no gaming story with this. Not really. I mean, technically they do, but it's not really a gaming story. And the issue is, fundamentally, and this kind of connects with the previous point, what are the things that people do with headsets? Right now, there are some like productivity or useful things that you can do, but they're limited and not many people really need that or want that. The only business model or the only functionality that has been proven to work on headsets is gaming. And when I say work, I mean it's the only thing that anyone has actually proven can be a profitable industry. And it's not super profitable, but it's profitable enough. Ask all the people that work on Beat Saber how they did with the MetaQuest. Like, they'll tell you they made money, but there aren't a ton of games, and none of those games are on the Vision Pro at all. Literally zero. So,
Well, a few of them. There were a few, like I think Job Simulator got on there. A couple of
oh,
other
that's right.
mainstays, but it was, again, it very similar situation as Android XR right now, where it's a tiny fraction of what's on other on Quest or PC, which it never really worked as a PC headset either, except through like one third party you know app, which AVLR. So
Mm-hmm.
not great, not ideal.
But when you put all this stuff together, like, there's so many reasons why people would have either bought this knowing they were going to return it, or bought it thinking it was going to be one thing and then kind of not understanding or not reading between the lines of the announcement that it was something entirely different. Um so yeah, I'm sorry, but Apple did a bad job communicating what this was. I think Apple did a bad job in the concept phase of what it was supposed to do or what it was supposed to be. And no matter how good they made the hardware, they kind of created a software story that was too limiting. Or rather just did not enable the the things that I think a lot of people wanted to do with this. So, yeah, the return rate is high. Shocker. But I think that was a problem they created for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, again, uh, it's it could come back. They could, reorganize a team if if we're assuming this is true. They could organize a team in a year or two to like take another crack at this and try to figure it out. Because I had always assumed that the plan was get this extremely expensive headset out there, and then you
Let
refine
developers
it.
play with it and then try to
Yeah,
try to make it better. Which I
you well you refine it, and then you also hopefully get to the point where economies of scale allow you to make a comparable headset at a much lower price, and then that's the thing you try to sell people on.
mhm.
um, but that has not happened yet. Maybe Apple just didn't want to make any of those compromises, or they thought that people still wouldn't want it. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you were still in the preamble or if you actually said what happened, but the going rumor is that the team behind the Vision Pro has effectively been
Yeah, that's
reassigned,
yeah.
dismantled, whatever. Um, and if if that's true, it would basically presume that the Vision Pro project, like the whole project, is dead. Not the individual models that they've made, not necessarily the technology that went into the Vision Pro, because there are teams that work on some of this stuff that they'll continue working on the same things, just putting it into different products, or continuing it for research and development purposes. But the team that effectively built the product, those guys are gone. Like they're not fired necessarily. Maybe some are, but no, it's more likely it appears that all those people have basically been shuffled out to other teams, and they're just working on other products now. Which I think one this kind of raises a big question in my mind about what happens to current Vision Pro owners. Like, are they getting updates ever again? Is this just like a dead product that's going to be abandoned at whatever current version of Vision OS it has? Is this?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume at the very least they just keep the security updates going for forever. But if like everyone is gone and not reassembled, then I don't really see them shipping a major update for this ever again. Like it just stays on Vision OS 26 or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, it raises two big red flags to me. Actually, kind of three, but I guess that's connected to another one. The first, man, Apple customers who just spent $3,500 on a product that's getting abandoned this quickly in its life cycle, that is crappy. That is such a bad thing to do to your customers, especially people who are ostensibly customers who have money and are willing to spend it on this, or worse, customers who don't have a lot of money and decided to dedicate it to this. Because man, those are some people who are going to be pissed. It is also really bad for, and this leads into my next point, developers. Because it's not like there were a ton of developers who retasked themselves to Vision OS. I think we all know that didn't happen. But this has set up the same problem that Google has had for many years now. They start a project and then cancel it a little too quickly. Or maybe not quickly enough in some cases. That's debatable in certain contexts. But Google now has a bad reputation. A horrible reputation, actually, I would say. Where if you're a developer, well, just go ask any app developer that tried developing for tablets for 10 years. How many times did Google start and then stop their efforts with tablets? Ask any Google developer how things went with Glass. Ask any Google developer how things went with, honestly, Android TV. Like, things got really bad there too. Ask any developer who tried building for any of Google's platforms that aren't either the web or Android phones. And yes, I know their phones and tablets kind of get mashed together in these days, but if you're really honest about it, like phones are the only real thing anyone cares about. If you're a developer for either of those platforms, things are fine. Well, things aren't fine, but that's a different issue. If you tried developing for any other platform under Google, that's a bad place to be. That you were going broke, slowly or quickly. And now Apple has watchOS, where developers have largely said, yeah, that was a waste of our time and money. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You now have Vision OS, where, again, most of the developers, actually at this stage, I'm sure all of the developers are saying, yeah, no, this was a colossal waste of any time and effort we put in. There's going to probably be, I'm willing to bet, if you went around and asked a bunch of Apple TV developers, I bet they're not super thrilled about that platform either, unless they're, streaming networks. But that's something you can practically just pick up the pre-boxed like code and fill in your branding, fill in a couple of other bits. Oh boy, something just fell down behind me. And it's okay. But yeah, Apple just, if Apple kills this, it is continuing and supporting a reputation that is going to soon be as bad as Google's. That's not a place they want to be. They needed, I'm not saying that they should keep a project going just to save a little face, but I think it's foolish for them to kill this project at this stage in its life. Because what are they going to do? Is Apple really going to give up on headsets? I don't think so. I can't see a scenario where they do. What I see them doing is, in a few years, they're probably going to retry this once the technology is a little further along. And how many developers are going to trust them then? At that point, this is a bad investment. No developer is going to want to take that, at least not most of them. And also, they will just be ceding the entire market to competitors at that stage. So I think Apple's making a massive mistake if they kill this. Even if it's a costly thing to keep going, I think they should be investing in it.
Yeah, I don't think they would have any like real reputational damage from this because no one cared in the first place.
I don't agree with that. Okay.
It was as I wanted to see this turn into something more affordable. I wanted to see like the Gen 2 or 3 of this. My other worry is that I have a strong suspicion that Android XR was only started up because of an assumption that this would be a category that Apple successfully dominates, and Google and Samsung would want a comparable product to compete in that market. And Apple clearly flopped, and reportedly is out of this now. So what happens to Android XR? I don't know.
Yeah, and that is a weird domino effect that would definitely be bad for Android XR.
Because the headsets, they did roll out an update that I mentioned earlier this month, but there's still no more headsets that we know about that are on the way. And the the Galaxy XR is still only in 2 countries, so not ideal for a platform that should ideally be growing.
True, very true. I feel like I will counter that one a little bit. I think there's a very real possibility that with Apple out of the picture, or purportedly, we don't know for sure, but
we're operating under the assumption that this is true, but it might not be.
Yeah, under the assumption that Apple is effectively out of the picture and won't reboot efforts anytime in the immediate future, which we also don't know. Like, there is a possibility that maybe, just to throw this out there, there is a possibility that they might just pop up and say, you know what, the whole head thing was an idea that we pushed, but we didn't realize it. We came a long way in other technologies, so we've got smart glasses coming in like a year and a half, so we're just killing this project now. It's not where we see the future. Don't worry about it. Like, they could do that. I don't think they will, but maybe. We don't know. All right. Anyway, getting back to what I was going to say about Android XR. I'm really hoping that what happens now is Google and Samsung just see this as Apple being out of the picture, and therefore they should, I don't want to say pivot, but they should renew their focus on trying to compete with Meta. Because right now, like, yes, there are other competitors in the market, but the VR market as it stands, well, VR and AR, uh, are largely dominated by Meta. I know Steam does have, or Valve, sorry, Valve does have its own platform. It's obviously not hugely successful, but it's successful enough. But they're not competing on the same level, not even close. Um, and there are other headsets, but I don't think any of them are particularly high, uh, like high adoption rates.
Yeah, I mean, at least in terms of gaming, you can go to the Steam hardware survey, and it tells you the most popular ones for VR gaming. So I'll put that in the YouTube chat, and it is Quest is at 30 at the Quest 3 by itself is 27% highest margin, followed by the Quest 2 at 22%, and then everything else is less than 20% usage. And one of those is also the Quest 3S at 12.7%. So it is
Mm-hmm.
majority is Quest.
Yeah, at least.
And Quest is the only option, or in terms of like the US, the only like standalone VR thing. I know there is a like Pico platform that I think is primarily in like China and maybe some of Europe, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not informed enough about that.
But yeah, the mere fact that over half of the industry is dominated by just two headsets, and uh, they, or sorry, almost half, and then you throw a third headset, all Meta, and you're at basically 60%. Like that's a, or you're a little over 60%. That's a pretty dominating position. Um, it's not completely overwhelming. Obviously, others could come in and make a some impact at some stage, but yeah, that's not promising. Um, so yeah, I as I see it, like it would be, we need to have another Goliath come in here and claw back some of that market. I don't know that Samsung and Google are going to be a that kind of Goliath. I'd like to think they would be, just so that there is some competition for Meta. And it's not like this is a market that needs to be owned and controlled. Uh, right now, it is still technically a niche market because there's, outside of gaming, there's really not that much happening in it. But that's not going to be true forever. And so I want to see somebody else competing, not just one of the worst companies that has ever existed on our soil.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Vision Pro stuff. But right now, it's not looking hot, and I do have to go now. So I will abandon you at this time.
All right. I'm going to babble for just a moment longer about Apple and then call that a good one.
Okay.
So,
Bye,
bye bye.
everyone.
Okay. So, um yeah, the other news, and obviously this is now a little bit older, but kind of connected to the same general topic, is Tim Cook is going to be leaving his role as CEO of Apple. Notably, that is somewhat qualified phrasing because he's not leaving Apple. He is just going to step aside to be a what is it? Chairman of Apple's board of directors. executive chairman of Apple's board of directors. And John Ternus, the senior vice president of hardware, will be taking over as CEO. So, why is this happening? Obviously, Tim Cook has been doing this for quite a while, over 10 years. And frankly, like, I'm not picking on age, but he's now 65. I think anyone who looks at him also would probably agree he actually looks kind of older than 65. This has probably been a bit of a wearing. It's probably worn on him at least a little bit. And so, yeah, he wants to, I'm sure, go on to do some other things, just relax a little bit more, enjoy life, take time off, etc., etc. And John Ternus is 50 years old, so he's kind of in that sweet spot for taking over a company of Apple's size. He's got the history and reputation, and yeah, so he's going to be the new man. The funny thing to me is, certainly we've seen John Ternus. Uh, it's all the ass kissing. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think that Tim Cook probably at some point, um, he may have hit that stage of like, I just hate dealing with what's going on right now, and I just don't want to do it anymore. Like, I could fully, completely picture that being his position. Um, but who knows? Maybe he likes that part of the job. We don't know. Um. Anyway, so yeah, John Ternus, senior vice president of hardware engineering, is going to be taking over. I I think that this is interesting for a few different reasons. Obviously, one very clearly, Apple is just a very significant and influential company. It's a company with a crap load of money. It is a company that has a lot of influence over technology, both in what it produces and like the various organizations that it's part of. There's a lot to focus on here, so it could have a lot of different implications. And I don't think we really know how John Ternus is going to run the company as a whole. Um, but over the years, we have seen how John Ternus has operated as senior vice president, or in hardware engineering roles. Let's say it that way. Um, for those that don't know, and I mentioned this in Discord, John Ternus, uh, like the Mac Pro was his baby for quite some time. He was a big proponent of it and a big believer that it needed to be a product. Uh, and of course, the Mac Pro was officially killed not too long ago. Uh, I I somewhat jokingly hypothesized that maybe this was a condition of making him CEO. Like he had to just formally say, "All right, you know what? This thing I care about, I have to kill it." Like, there is a possibility that they made him do that so that as sort of the test, can you kill something you love in or can you show that you can kill something you love in order to prove that you've got the chops to do this job. Um, and so yeah, I'm not saying that that's what actually happened. It's just a funny thing to muse about. Um, I'm inclined to think that it, the fact that he is on the engineering side, that is very different than Tim Cook, who, of course, Tim Cook was an operations guy prior to this. His whole thing, his entire time at Apple has been dominated by being the guy who focused on supply chain. His whole time was all about figuring out how to make the money work more effectively. this is how Apple, or a large portion of how Apple got to be as rich as it was, because Tim Cook was the guy who came along and said, you know what, if we can save 3 cents per unit on like headphone jacks, let's do that. Which, by the way, I don't know what the actual numbers are, but that is something that actually happened. For anyone who doesn't know, like if you go back to the early days of the iPhone, there used to be that whole difference of if you plug in a headset that was TRRS, um, then the poles were there's two standards for TRRS microphone jacks, and one of them has the poles reversed between the microphone and the one of the headphones. I forget which. Um, as a result, uh, they're they're just two standards. Um, One of those standards was, I believe, created by, I want to say it was Motorola, but the more I think about it, the more I think it wasn't. It was Nokia. Actually, it was probably Nokia. I'm almost certain it was Nokia. The other one, I forget who created it, but it is a standard that basically only gets used in China. Um, well, that standard, or had at the time, only really had prominence in China. And well, that standard, as it turns out, is the one that Apple picked because manufacturing in China made those highly available at a much lower cost. So they chose to use a headphone jack that did not match the standard that pretty much anyone in America used. Um, Welcome to Saving a Penny by Tim Cook. Anyway, so Ternus gives us the other side of this. This is going to be the engineer who is going to be running Apple, um, and it raises a lot of questions. Like how does an engineer run a company of this scale? We've seen the salesman run it. That was Jobs. We've seen the accountant run it. That was Cook. Now, how does the engineer run it? And yes, there have been other people who have run Apple, but largely most of them were failures. So let's not look too closely at them. Um, how did that icon get on my desktop? Anyway, um, so yeah, this is why I think this will become like actually a really significant thing. We're about to see a major tech company being run by an actual engineer, someone who has spent time actually building real products, as opposed to uh well, logistics, yes, but let's be honest, he was an accountant. I mean, he wasn't literally an accountant, but it, logistics is about moving money around. It is. I, I am not trying to be precise with the language. I'm trying to kind of just draw the illustration here. Um, but in reality, the board runs Apple now. I'm not going to dispute that. The board definitely does run Apple, but uh, Ternus is about to have a lot more control put on his plate, and so the board runs the company, but Ternus is still going to have final say on a lot of the things that come out of the company. That may have some interesting results. There are a lot of ways that we're going to see his fingerprints on a lot of future products, and that's something that the board doesn't really control. Um, so we'll see. That being said, I look at the two major product cancellations of this year, the Mac Pro, and I think, okay, I can certainly see how that happens. But we just talked about the Vision Pro. I'm kind of wondering, was dismantling that team, assuming that's what actually happened, is that something that maybe Tim Cook decided to take on his own, so that he's not handing it off to Ternus to do in uh, sometime later this year? Which, by the way, as this highlights, the transition officially occurs on September 1st. What's also very interesting about that is, historically, iPhones do not launch on until mid-September, or the announcement for new iPhones usually doesn't happen until mid-September. So in all likelihood, this will be the first I/O where Turnus will walk out on stage and say hello to everyone. And he will be the effective host of the event. At least it seems that way. We'll see. I don't know. It, like, that's all presentation. It's a form of advertising, so I don't want to put too much weight on the Google I/O, or sorry, not Google I/O, but the sorry, not even that. The iPhone, the iPhone keynote. I don't want to put too much emphasis on who stands in front of the camera first for the keynote, but it will be a change, and it's the first time it's changed in quite a while. So we'll see. Like, this could be a really interesting change. Maybe it will be a change in tone. Honestly, I doubt that. I don't think that he's going to really change the tone of the events so much. And I don't know his personality on that front. I'd like to think that he'll be a little bit more uh, interesting, a little bit more. I don't want to make this about age, but I want to use the term vibrant. Um, and that's, again, like, I want to emphasize, this is not about age. It's about Tim Cook being, like, his personality has always been pretty subdued. I'd kind of like to think that Turnus is going to come in with maybe a little bit more. I hate using the term rock star because that's not what I mean, but I want to see him come in with a little bit more attitude and personality, because that's where Tim Cook never felt good in those keynotes to me. He felt like an executive. He felt like the guy who gets out there and just he's got the formal speech to make and not much else. And he always tried to kind of copy Jobs, not copy directly, but sort of take a lot of influence from Steve Jobs. I'd love to think that Turnus is going to walk in and give us something different. Not so different as to be unrecognizable, but different in the sense of bringing his own personality into it, putting a little bit more character behind what the company is announcing. Because, hey, look, does it really matter in the long run what kind of personality we get in the announcement? No. But we're all, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are going to sit here and watch the announcements. We're still going to focus on them. I want to at least enjoy them. I'd like personalities that are a little more entertaining. And I'd like to think that he'll bring some of that. I don't know that he will, but I can hope. So yeah. And like I said, I'm curious what products are being killed in advance of him taking over. If it's true that the Vision Pro team has been disbanded and isn't going to be part of and there's going to be no more basically future for the Vision Pro in the immediate future. I'm curious, because if there's going to be an announcement, I certainly wouldn't want to be the guy who got put on the job with a team that's actually non-existent now, and then have to be the one who also announces it. that's a thing that Tim Cook should probably own on his way out. So I figure, just because of that, that announcement has to be coming sometime before September. So they've got 4 months, 4 months to announce that the Vision Pro is officially getting canceled. Um, or maybe they just let that one trail off and never say another word about it and hope that everyone ignores it, which is something Apple would do, but I don't think it's something that they can do in this instance. Um so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I like that we're going to see a change in leadership. I like that Ternus. Re, rumors suggest strongly that Ternus was also a champion for the MacBook Neo, and he had a big impact on bringing that to market. Um, which, given his role, is kind of obvious. Like it's a certainty that he actually had a lot to do with it. My question is, was he the person that came up with the idea and came up with how that was going to be brought to market, or was it someone else and he just gave it the green light? I don't know. And I'd kind of like to know a little bit more about what he's going to do, or what he's done, because it would kind of give us a picture of what we can expect from Apple over the next, say, 10 years. But yeah, who knows? So I'm probably going to have more to say on this in the future. But this is where I've been thinking about it so far. Um I'm sure there will be a lot of things happening, and we'll be dare I say, we'll be judging him quite a bit come September. Cuz when that new iPhone announcement is his first job, or first hosting event, that's going to be interesting. Okay, so anyway, I think that about wraps it up. Yeah, like I said, we skipped over the OnePlus being merged with Realme. What was the other things? I vaguely considered, and I think I'm going to save this for a future conversation, but some of the things I was looking at, apparently Snapchat is rolling out sponsored AI agents, which is gross and creepy, but also feels so predictable and lazy as to make me wonder if Snapchat really thought this one through. Um, let's see. Meta slash Facebook is has cut their company, or is about to cut their company by about 10%, and there are rumors that they're going to go to a full 20% this year. So they are firing 8,000 people now, and they're going to close job openings that amount to about another 6,000, which, technically doesn't count as firing people. But so they're doing that. They're basically all but killing off a lot of their, what was it, Meta Horizons project, um, or whatever that was technically called. They're obvious, like they're cutting a lot of stuff, which is, I gotta say, kind of kind of telling for a company that's supposedly making as much money as they supposedly do, and has lots of fairly huge projects. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, blah blah blah, um, WhatsApp, obviously, like lots of other side projects, and then you get into like the VR space, where they have tried to do both hardware and software. If they're downsizing by this many people, They say it's so that they can run more efficiently. What I'm hearing is maybe they've realized that they're making bad stuff, and that like at some point the bill's going to come due for all these projects that are sort of failing. Um, One of the things I was, if we had more time today, and fewer topics, one thing I kind of want to do is actually talk about threads, because every time I take a look at threads, it just kind of looks like it's bombing. I know that it's technically not, but I kind of think it is. Um, so I don't know. Um, uh, just This is the first time I've looked at threads in forever, and most of the stuff showing up in my timeline is either people I don't follow, or it's uh like a day or more old. So yeah, that's not positive. Granted, I also don't load this up ever, so my follow list isn't going to be particularly good. But yeah, needless to say, that's not promising if if it looks that stark when I open up the page. Um, and the thing is, I'm also not really sure that it's any better at any other social networks. It, every time I look at Blue Sky, that's the only one that seems to be moderately active. And even Blue Sky is sort of just active in its own little niche areas. Mastodon is obviously, stagnant in terms of growth, and a lot of users have just sort of dropped off of Mastodon. I'm kind of, at this stage, honestly, I'm starting to wonder what social networks people are even using, because it seems like a lot of the big ones are not it. And of course, then there's Twitter, which is like 5% um, right wing influencers and 95% bots that pretend that they are supportive of right wing influencers. So that's not really useful. Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that, but I'm starting to feel like Facebook is faking their numbers just so that they can seem like they're still relevant. And I don't doubt that Instagram still has relevance, but I think that's waning too. So kind of kind of leaning in the direction of thinking that these companies are in mid crash. They know that they're in mid crash, and they don't know what to do about it, so they're just going to start firing people. But yeah, anyway, so that's me rambling for now an extra 10 or 15 minutes. Uh, but with that, I think I'm gonna wrap it up and take off. Um, so let's see. I will be back this weekend with some game streams. I admit I completely forgot to check if there was any new event going on with Overwatch. So I don't know yet, but um, I might be doing a playthrough of Horizon Zero Dawn using the remastered PS5 Pro version of it. Well, it's the PS5 version, the remaster, and supposedly that's been improved for the PS5 Pro. Um, and then if there is an event in Overwatch, I might be doing that instead. I have to just check. Otherwise, um, yeah, I think that's pretty much the plan for this weekend. Next week, I should be. Let's see. I will be on alone. Corbin is going to be busy. Um, I do not know yet what next week's topics will be. We'll find out together. But then Corbin and I have talked it out, and the following 2 weeks He will be on for the Android show and for IO. So we will be tag teaming those both together. Um, and then we're going to make sure that everything lines up so that he will be on also for the WWDC episode. So we're getting a little bit better at planning ahead. It's a skill that adults are supposed to have, and we're slowly figuring that out. I kid, of course. I kid. All right. Anyway, so with that, thanks everyone for coming by, hanging out, and being part of the conversation. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to supporters of the channel: David, Diablo, Austin, Carson, and Alyssa. Y'all are awesome human beings and help keep this thing going. Let's see. Oh, and of course, if you're doing any shopping on the Amazons or the Adoramas or even the Insta360s, check out my website, codytones.com, where I have a product recommendations page. Why is it that I always stumble on that the first time I say it and then say it perfectly the second time, going just as fast? I don't know that. Anyway, go check out that page. There are affiliate links on there. If you click through one of those links and buy something, even if it's not something that's that you click through, then Amazon, Adorama, Insta360, they gave me a little piece of that sale. It costs you nothing extra, and it helps out the channel as well. Anyway, with that, I hope everyone has an excellent rest of their evening, a good rest of the week, and I will see you all in the next one. Good night, everybody.